Good morning. I heard, as I'm sure all of you did, recently that Bob Dole died. Bob Dole. He was 98 years old. What an amazing man. Just a young man when World War II broke out. He answered the call of his country. He fought in the war and he was so seriously wounded, he would lose the use of his right shoulder and hand for the rest of his life. He would go on to enter into politics. He had wanted to be a surgeon, but that couldn't happen now. He went into politics and would become the leader of the Senate. He would become a presidential candidate. And regardless of what you thought about his politics, you had to say that as a human being, he was a good man. He loved his country. He served. He was a man who loved veterans and wanted to take care of them. No, I liked Bob Dole. But I also saw just recently that Edward Shames died. He was 99. It turned out he was the last officer in Easy Company. You remember the parachute regiment, infantry regiment that was made so famous in Band of Brothers. 99 years old. He and Bob were 1 year different. It's the kind of thing that both young men stood up and served their country, going through such horrific things. It was 80 years ago today, December the 7th, 1941, the Japanese bombed Pearl Harbor. 2,400 people died, and millions were thrust into the war, having their lives changed forever. The amount of families who would know someone who would not come back and be at the table ever again. But we rose up to stave off the Axis powers. If you ever want to have an interesting exercise, just stop and think what would have happened if Hitler would have won. If the Nazis had overrun England, if the Japanese and Nazis had turned their attention to the United States and conquered us, what would the world be like today if the powers and the likes of Hitler had truly overcome in the world people like Mussolini, people like Hirohito of Japan? What would the world have been like? The country that you and I live in. Now, we were so blessed that so many people rose up and said, we want a different world. Most people didn't realize that it was Winston Churchill who made a surprise visit to the United States back on December the 22nd, 1941. Just a couple of weeks after the bombing of Pearl Harbor, he came to the United States to meet with FDR to talk about coordinating the war efforts and what we needed to do. He was here on Christmas Eve night. When they came out, and in those days, that's when you lit a Christmas tree. The president would flip the lights and turn on the lights on a Christmas tree in Washington, D.C. And Winston Churchill was there with him that night. But before he flipped the lights on, FDR wanted to address the nation. And I want to read you what he had to say. The new year of 1942 calls for the courage and resolution of old and young to help win a world struggle in order that we may preserve all that we hold dear. We are confident in our devotion to country, in our love of freedom, in our inheritance of courage, but our strength, as the strength of all people everywhere, is of greater avail as God upholds us. The strength of all people everywhere is of greater avail as God upholds us. As you and I are living through a pandemic now into 21 months, it's been a worldwide war. A challenge for millions of people around the world, taking the life of millions, of more than 750,000 here in the United States. And yet we've had to prevail. Just as the world had to prevail so long ago, 80 years ago, in the midst of the struggle against fascism, against the Axis powers, well, we have our own war now, and it's against a virus. And it has been hard. And yet our strength that upholds us is greater because God upholds us. as you and I remember 80 years ago today, and we give thanks for all of those who paid such a price that we could be free, let us also give thanks for the gift of Emmanuel, God with us, the one who upholds us in all of the dark nights we may face, whatever they may be. We are the people of hope. Have a great day.